Hey, Randy, how are you? Pleased to meet. Pleased that you got here early. How are you? No gigs tonight. This shit drives me crazy. Unbelievable. Okay. All right. Hey, Ed, how are you, man? Long time. Where you been? Anyway, um, this time seems to be a pretty good time, 7 o'clock. I don't know if I'm able to do it. Who's this? Dave Franikowski. My goodness. How are you? Glad that you're here and welcome back. We're going to be doing a lot of things on this YouTube channel for a little while. My site's going to be under construction and we'll go back there once it's completed. Got it, Dave? All right, no announcements. I want to get right to it. Does anybody have this book, The Level Systems? Yes? No? Okay. This book was written by Jeffrey Johnson. Okay, and Jeffrey Johnson was a student of Joe Morello's. And I would come in contact with him once in a while from the studio. Nice guy, good player. You have it, Ed. Good for you. Great. I think Jeffrey has done a great job explaining the level systems. It's not necessary that you purchase this, but he does definitely get into crescendos and full strokes, and it's basically what I'm roughly talking about with the level system. The stroking positions or sticking heights or whatever. The full stroke, the downstroke, the tap, and the upstroke, and he applies it to some sort of musical situation. Guy did a great job, man. He's a really great player. He really is. Nice guy besides. That's what really mattered. Oh. So, Ed, you weren't here last night. Ricardo, you weren't here last night. I don't think. And Dave, you have the book? Dave Franikowski, you have the level system. Good for you. Okay, I've been working on that textbook, or whatever you want to call it. 180 pages. Ay, boonga. I'm trying to keep the cost down only because I'm doing the printing, and I guess it would be, I would go to Staples and they would put the binders in. So I'm trying to keep the cost of the book. It's a lot of money. No, you don't have all right, you don't need it, but it'd be nice to have in your library. Okay, time functions again. You did? All right, well, you want me to go over a little review, Ricardo? What I was explaining, and Ed wasn't here, and Dave wasn't here. Maybe it's a good idea. One of my students wrote well, he didn't write the book. He turned me on to the book. It was The Lost Foot, the hi-hat. It has a lot of voices to the hi-hat. Ugh, excuse me. Ugh. Not just a chick. You got chick. You got one. I can't even do that. Well, we'll get to that another time, okay? What is this? Okay. Well, Well, they were. Let me just give you a summation. I just want to go over a little review anyway. They were about the symbol ostinatos. Now, again, an ostinato is a pattern which repeats itself over and over again. If I'm playing straight quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a symbol ostinato because I'm constantly playing quarter notes. If I was playing eighth notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's another ostinato. Or if I was playing on a hi-hat, 1E and the 2. It's a symbol ostinato. In his book on page 6, that's the Time Functions Patterns book, he gives you a few possibilities. And what I did is I've extended those possibilities to the stick control book. They're not in here. So I gave you maybe 5 from here and 5 from the stick control book, all of page 11 and all the combinations. It's a lot of time, a lot of ink, and a lot of pages, 180 pages. I haven't really come up with a price yet, but I'm trying to keep the cost down. So let's go back to the ostinato. You know, he labels it as fatback. It's not a fatback, it's a heavy backbeat on 2 and 4. If I'm just playing eighth notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? That's a backbeat. It's not fatback. Fatback is a displacement of the 2 and the 4, makes it funky. Do we understand that? Joe, how are you, Joe? I guess I'm a little early. We're waiting on Paul. Mike Lewis, I don't know, he's still ill. I hope he gets better. And there's like 2 or 3 other students that continually pay on my site but never come and view the lesson live. I'm not sure what that is all about. Okay, so we talked about that last night, and now we're going to talk about answer call. For example, if I played 4 quarter notes, or call, answer, or whatever, however you want to phrase it. If I played 1, 2, 3, 4, and then with my left hand, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is in the book. Now, if I want to play a pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I'll break it into, instead of 4, 4, let's do 2, 4. 2 downbeats with the right, with the bass drum, 2 downbeats with the left hand. 1, 2. Okay? Now, if I expand on the eighth notes and say, all right, let me do, let me see what else we can do with this. Hold on a second, gentlemen. Example, if I'm going 2, 3, I'm playing quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm actually taking his sequences. I'm playing it downbeat 1, 2, and then 3, 4 with the snare. I'm calling, answering. Okay, so I go to the E now. 1, 2, no backbeat. Got it, guys? Okay, that was the 16th. Now we'll go to the 8th. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll start with the snare this time. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'll go over to the da. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Paul timeouts here. I think this 7 o'clock is a lot easier for a while. I'm not going to be able to do it all the time. Once in a while, I'm not going to be able to do it, and you'll get notified. If I'm not on at 7, I will be on at 7:30. All right, but we're going to change the time to 7 from now on. And then, if I'm not on at 7, then I'll be on at 7:30. And that will happen very rarely. Okay, Joe Shield. You got to smack them around a little bit in the art of drumming groups. They have no respect. It's the younger generation following the rules. My attitude is everybody should be a Marine. Okay, so now he takes the sequences that he goes from, it's actually the grid, we're on the da. Then he goes to the next one, which is 1E and 2E. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then he has the combinations. All right, he's playing 1, 2. If you want to view the page, it's page 15. I'm sorry, page 15 of the Patterns series, the time functions. All right, we're on page 5, line number 5, third measure. Got it? Want me to slow it down? No? Yes? Maybe? Give you a better explanation? I'm trying to run through these because what I want to do is take the syncopation book tonight and work a few figures that are there, answer call against certain patterns. Now you're going to have 10 different symbol ostinato patterns to work with. And then, it's like his books, the Pattern series, plus he has 2 additional books. It's like a lifetime journey, man. And boy, his books really open up a tremendous amount of doors. And in combination with the stick control book, okay, and the other books like Joe Morello's Master Studies with the hands, the syncopation book for reading. You got it, Ricardo? Okay, Randy, you got it? It's clear? All right, everybody's okay with it. All right, now, all it is you can make up your own pattern. 1, 2. I'm just going to drop the 2 and 4. I'm using just the simple pattern, the money beat. This one here. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. I should extend it 2 measures, but that's okay. What is a good exercise is if you're doing stick control book. It's not an answering call, but it's a controlled kind of exercise. If I did line 1, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and said, okay, let's make that 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and play between the bass drum and the snare. 1E and a 2E and against this. Ah. Oh, hello. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and you're actually answering it. So everything comes from that stick control book. Line 3. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. Line 5. Now you can do that with all the right-hand cymbal patterns, and it'll drive you crazy. You'll quit your job, you'll stay home and get up, have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and practice in that drum room all day until the police come and say, go, I'm too loud. Nah, you got it? You see what I'm doing with the stick control book? I'm taking the stick control book and saying, okay, making the rights, it's like an answer call, right, left, but I'm thinking 16ths, 1E and a 2E and a 4E and I'm playing the hi-hat. Line 13. Now, you can do the whole stick control book like that. There's another formula that I really, really enjoy. And man, it kills your foot. It doesn't kill it, it builds your foot. Okay? It starts off as the hand exercise. I explained this about 2 years ago doing these lessons. That R becomes 4 notes, 4/16, 1, E, and A. Left becomes 4 lefts. So if I took the interpretation of R is 1, E, and L is, and I did line 1, it'd be right, left, left. So I take that formula, for example, line 3, so you can understand it a little bit better. Line 3 is 2 rights, 2 lefts. Right, left, right, left. So, if you take this kind of exercise, it's going to help you with the snare drum, bass drum combinations in the book. And we're going to get to that, but first we've got all these ostinatos to work with. This book, it really excites me. It really does, because there's so much in it, so much great information. I just never want to put the sticks down. Okay, so now, let's do that exercise. Let's take line 1. But notice that right hand, it still is. I'm not going, that's a terrible sound. So on and so forth. Well, not really. Yeah, you could say it's similar to the Stone Killer. That's where it come from. You know, that's one of the exercises that Joe Morello worked with, or combinations or formulas. And the reason why who's not familiar with the Stone Killer, there is a section there, and he builds like a triangle. He'll go 2, 4, 1 E and 2 E and then he'll go to 3 times 3, 4, 1 E and 2 E and, well, actually 2, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. We understand that one, Dave? You're sort of similar. It's almost similar to it. It has the same effect. The reason why he built that triangle, you know, it's hard for drummers who just begin. You know, a lot of guys, in the course of a lot of years, and I would go down to the drum studio, his studio, and hang out there, and you know, guys would come to study with him from all over the world. Well, the guys who were local or within the tri-state area, hey Kent, how you doing? All right, the guys who lived in the tri-state area or within traveling distance of a couple hours will go take a lesson with Joe Morello. And they really, you know, not that they were terrible, but they were at a certain point. And I said, wow, you know, he's a very advanced teacher. But it was just the fact of, yeah, I studied with Joe. How many lessons did you have? 1. But he still studied with Joe. Ken, everybody's hanging out tonight. That's a good thing, 7 o'clock. Okay, now you see that formula, all right? R equals 4 rights, L equals 4 lefts. And we do it between the bass drum, we do the substitution. Instead of using the right hand, the bass drum. Against this pattern. The one I like is to do a 3-minute, 4-minute lead. Yep, we sure do, Dave. Dave's comment was, we all still study with Joe. We sure do. You know, nothing like sitting next to Joe taking a drum lesson, man. He was like, he flipped me out when I first took a lesson with him the first day. I was in awe, man. I said, wow, this guy has a set of hands that were unbelievable. And I practiced maybe 100 hours a week between lessons at first. But that's okay. Joe Morello was a godsend. You know, too bad he's not with us anymore, but he is with us. And I try to keep him with us. But anyway, and I lost my train of thought. The endurance exercises. We're working with this one. The eighth note. We're going to put the backbeat on 2 and 4. Nice and slow. Now, when I do that, I make sure that my right hand on the hi-hat is consistent in the sound. I don't hear this all the time. I want to hear this. That gives me that. That really swings. It's very musical, and it pushes. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then, do that for 2 or 3 minutes at a variety of tempos. Use the metronome, okay? The question is, was Joe intimidating to study with? Joe was very humble. All right, let me just give you a little, I guess, synapse or whatever I don't even know the terms to call it. I was in shock, not because he was intimidated, because I admired him. I used to listen to Blue Rondo La Turk, Take 5, Castilian drums all the time. And I didn't even know he lived in New Jersey at that time. And I said, I admire this guy. Wow, that guy's really playing. He plays so well. How does he get that? And I was referred to him by one teacher I took 2 lessons from, who he studied with, Joe Morello. And I called up and I called him Mr. Morello. He laughed. And he says, all right, tell me a little bit about yourself. And at that time, I was teaching at one of the local music stores. It was a pretty big music store. I had like 88 students, half-hour students. That's a lot of students. So I told them, I have 88 students and I play 6 nights a week. His comment, what he said to me, he returned it as, well, maybe I should study with you. What is this? He said, maybe I should study with you. That's how he was, man. He was very humble. So I made an appointment, and back then, we're not talking, the Civil War days here, but his lessons were only $20 a lesson. And it was no 1 hour or 2 hour lesson or 3 hour lesson. There was a lesson until he felt you were finished. And, $20 that was in the 70s, I think 78, 79, in that area. Oh, no, before that. But $20 a lesson. And it wasn't much. But when I first went into the studio, I sat down. He had these 2 pads. The Ludwig, they had the Ludwig practice pads. They had the drum heads on them. And he had 2 chairs with 2 pads. And behind us, there was a drum set. The drum set which he recorded Take 5 and Blue Rondo La Turk and so on and so forth with Brubeck. And they were Ludwig at that time. And yeah, he had Paiste cymbals. And he's sitting on the right and I'm sitting on the left. And back then I was using a Regal Tip 5A. And he said, okay. He called me Patella. All right. And he goes, all right, let me hear your single paradiddles. Let me hear your doubles, so on and so forth. And I got to a point where, he started playing doubles, and I never seen anything like that up close like that. The guy was totally unbelievable. Okay, and then we got into some books. Obviously, the stick control book first, full strokes, half strokes, and quarter strokes at a variety of tempos with vamping. And then we got into some books. We had he explained the level system, the Charlie Wilcoxon 150 rudimental drum solos. Advanced reading was the Rick Sharon book, Portraits in Rhythm. Now, Joe had a problem with his eyes. He was actually considered legally blind. I would say he was about 85 to 90% blind. So you have to envision this now. First off, you're not familiar with Portraits in Rhythm by Rick Sharon. Anthony Sharon. All right? It's a very, very difficult book. A lot of dynamics and a lot of different time signatures, and a lot of phrasing. So I opened up to the first page. I read down maybe to the second line, and he goes, "No, you're missing all the dynamics." So I said, "Oh, sorry." So now, like I said, he was kind of blind. He had his glasses on and put his glasses up on his forehead, put the book to his face, and put it to his eyes and read the first couple lines and play it. And I said to him, "Who are you bullshitting?" And he had to laugh. And ever since I said that, we were good friends. I mean, I put him on a pedestal. I treated him like royalty, but I came back down to earth, okay, and treated him like just another guy, another drummer. Joe Morello, I just wish he was around. He'd be sitting here at least twice a week. Absolutely. If he wasn't on the road or doing clinics. And I met a few really good drummers. Like, for example, Alan Herman has done a few shows here. He studied with Joe Morello for a long, long time. Just about as many times as I did. And, Steve Forrester, he's in the groups. And a lot of guys say, I studied with Morello. I have 1-2 lessons. Man, that's not studying with the guy. You have to be consistent. One of the good students, or they were all good students really, that stayed with him. But one that I really respected a whole lot was Danny Gottlieb. Danny Gottlieb was in here two times a week. And his lessons, forget about it, were 6-7 hours. But anyway, I'm sorry, I went off. Intimidation. No intimidation. And I did tell everybody that story about he would come and see me play every night of the week. And yes, I was intimidated then. Then I said, the hell with him. And I just played. Then he smiled and said, yeah, great lesson. You learned your lesson. Okay. You got the stick control book? And you want to work on them. Not just this pattern. You want to break it up. For example, the paradiddle ostinato. Do that for 2 or 3 minutes and do it right-handed and left-handed. So on and so forth. You don't see me using half strokes. Okay, I'll do that for you, Dave. Half strokes. Full stroke. Half strokes. Quarter stroke. Okay, Dave. No, I never studied with Stanley Spector. No. I heard of him. I don't really know. I've never met him, I don't think. The teacher I was talking about that referred me to Joe Morello, he has since passed, and he moved to Florida. He retired. His name was Carl Wolf. He was from Bloomfield, New Jersey. Everybody would say, go see Carl Wolf, go see Carl Wolf. I went to see Carl Wolf. I had 2 lessons with him, and he said, what the hell you want with me? Go see Morello. And I went to see Morello. Okay? So a lot of talking, a lot of gabbing here. I'm sorry. I said I want to do the syncopation. Hold on. Do you all have the syncopation book? Yes, no, maybe, by chance, perhaps. Okay, well, you should have it. You might not have it in front of you. If you don't, get it. I'll wait. Stick control book, syncopation book, Chafee books, Joe Morello's Table of Time, and we're good to go. All right, you have it. Okay. Now, we were talking about, and I'm just staying with one ostinato tonight. So let me open up the syncopation book. Very, very simple pattern. Let's go to a simple kind of thing here. All right, let me see where I want to start with this. I didn't prepare anything for this, but that's okay. All right. Let's go to page 12. That's lesson 5. That's page 12, lesson 5. Okay, so now, it's very simple. First, I'm assuming, well, I shouldn't assume, but everybody knows how to read. It's all mathematics, okay? So if I took the first line, and he repeats it over and over again, a 4-measure phrase. Now, way back then, they did not have music programs like on a computer to write this. This had to be all typesetted. And he put the bass drum on 1, 2, 3, 4. So just eliminate that, because we're going to do something different. So we're going to play the figure on the snare drum first, okay? So I'm going to count 16th notes, and I'm going to play line 1. Nice and easy, nice and slow. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2, so on and so forth. We all know how to read that. Okay, that was half strokes there, Dave. Okay, now, we were working with this pattern. 1, 2. We're not going to play the 2 and 4. We're going to play one measure. Now, that's page 12, lesson 5. I have a couple variations. This one here, the original one, it's a different page. No. Yeah, page 12. That's right. Let me play it up a little bit. 1 E and the 2 E and the 3, 4. 1 E and the 2, 3, 4. 1 E and the 2, 3, 4. 1 E and the 2, 3, 4. 1 E and the 2 E and the 3 and the 4. So what we're going to do now, all right, we're on page 12. We're just going to play this pattern. I'm thinking, now do it nice and slow. 1 E and the 2 E and the 3. Here we go. 4. 1 E and the 2, 3, 4. Bass drum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You got it? Now, I'm doing it slow, and you should be doing it slow, okay? Just to feel it. And you can do the whole page like that. You go to line 2, 1. I'm a little bored with doing it slow. 1. Bop, 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 bop. 1 E and 2 E and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on and so forth. Does anybody, now you have to be honest, and that will make you go forward if you're honest. Does anybody here don't understand how to read that page? Come forward and learn. Tell me. Everybody knows how to read page 12? Yes? No? Okay, if you don't know how to read it, come forward and say so, and I'll break it down a little bit. It's very easy. The rules and regulations. There you go, Joe Shield. Remember the rules? Watch the video in the Art of Drumming groups. Follow the rules. You don't comply, you get out of the group. Well, if you don't follow the rules when you read, you're not going to read. Okay, Paul, good. You understand 12. Everybody understands 12. All right, another thing too that you want to do with the bass drum, because that bass drum for the next couple, well, always, but up and coming lessons for the cymbal ostinatos, that bass drum, you got to be happening with it. So you need to develop some endurance. I don't know how many guys jog, in the morning, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, jog 10 miles, come home, take a shower, and go to work. I don't know. I don't do that. Forget that. But some guys do. You want to stay in shape. Okay? So, what you want to do, you want to play the 16th notes with the bass drum. 1 E and 2, 3, 4, 8th notes. Then play the line with the left hand. 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 4 E and 1 E and 1 E and 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2, 3, 4. That bass drum is going to be happening. Well, then that you have the different book. You have the original, Ricardo. You have the original. That's okay. It's page 12 is exercise 5. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be 8th notes. It's a dotted 8th note. You have a dotted 8th note there, Ricardo? Yeah, it would me too, Ken. Ricardo, do you have, just so we get on the same page here, do you have this variation? This is the second edition. I'm on page 12, lesson 5, with this edition. I believe the first edition would be page either 13 or 11, lesson 5. And it's not counted 1 and 2 and. I'm counting it in 16ths. No. All right. I see I have to go through an explanation. You're on page 10 is what you are. You're on page lesson 4. Lesson 5 is a dotted 8th note. Now here we go with the rules and regulations. Now, first off, you have to understand what a dot does to a note. Am I frozen there or what? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, Ricardo. First off, let me come back a little bit here. You have a dotted note. Now, what does a dot do to a note? Everybody put their definition in or what they think it is. What does a dot do to a note? All right, a dot increases the value of a note by 1/2 the original value. Okay, so now, if I have a dotted 8th note, an 8th note by itself is equal to how many 16ths? 2. 2 16ths, so you have 1 E. Now, it's a dotted 8th note. I'm going to extend that count. I'm going to add to that by 1/2 of that, 1 more 16th. So a dotted 8th note would be 1 E, and now to complete the measure, the downbeat, dot. So if I have dotted 8th note, 16th note, dotted 8th note, 16th note, it would be 1 E and 2 E and da. Do we understand that? No, it doesn't. No, Dave, you're a little confused there. Regardless if it's an 8th note, a quarter note, a half note, a whole note, 16th or 32nd. I don't want to get into 32nds and get into 64ths. If I have a quarter note, that's equal to itself, one downbeat, 1. If I have a dotted quarter note, how many eighth notes does a dotted quarter note equal? What's this? All right. If I have a quarter note, if I'm playing quarter notes in 4/4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I played 4 quarter notes. Now, if I have a dotted quarter note, and then I have to have another dotted quarter note, I'd have 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4 and. Let me give you an example of that. Well, I want to stay on this page, okay? You have a dotted eighth note. That equals 3/16. If I did the first measure in 16th note counting, 1 E and da, okay? The dotted eighth note equals 3/16. 1 E and now I got to complete the downbeat da. So I have a whole line of dotted, like go to line 11, you'd have 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2. You get that, guys? Okay, we go now back to lesson 5, line 1. You have a dotted eighth note and a 16th note. That is 1 E and da. The next note, the next 3 notes are quarter notes, but we're still in 16th note counting. 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. At first you want to stay with that counting because it's essential. Eventually you feel it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But first you need to pay your dues here. 1 E and 2 E and 3, 4. So all I'm doing now, I mean, you could do it without the endurance. You just play this pattern and play one measure at a time. The first measure with, say, the bass drum, and then answer it with the snare. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back bass drum. 2, 3. Snare. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bass. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what you want to do, all right, is do it with a metronome, please. And you're not in a contest how fast you can play it, how relaxed it could be, and how musical it sounds. I mean, after a while you're going to feel good with it, and you're going to start playing 1, 2, 3, 4, pop. It'll feel good. And how fast you want to play it. You only can play it so fast. Then after that, it's a blur. Okay, you understand line 1, everybody? We're going to go to line number 2. We have a quarter note, which is going to be 1. We're in 16th note counting now, remember. 1 E and da. Then we have a dotted eighth note, which would be 2 E and then da. So the first 2 downbeats of line 2. 1 E and 2 E and then you have the quarter note again, 3 E and 4 E and. Everybody has that? Everybody understands? Line 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Line 2. Bass drum, then snare. 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4. 1 E and 2, 3, 4. Bop. 2, 3, 4. So on and so forth. Now, I've heard some online teachers say, he asked a question, somebody asked a question, how do you count that? And he goes, well, I don't count it. And I don't even teach my students how to count. I mean, really? I'm sorry, man, but that's off the wall. Counting is essential because that's the first stage. when you start counting, and if you count out loud, that's cool. That's cool. If you're by yourself, somebody's going to say, "Whoa, the guy's losing it." But you want to count out loud. That's good. But count to yourself at least, because that's the first platform. The next platform is to hum the figure, and then after that, the next platform is to hum the melody or the phrase. That's where you're going with that. Oh man, I've been here 45 minutes already. I feel like I have a job. I'm going to be leaving in 5 minutes, so no problem. Again, like I said, if anybody wants to purchase the book, I haven't not book, the booklet. I haven't come up with a price yet. Yep. I'm trying to keep the cost down. It's about 180 pages. And if you're interested, just email me, say you're interested, so I know how many to do. Okay? Don't worry, it shouldn't be anything over $25, right, really, plus the shipping and handling. So everybody has my email. Email me. And gentlemen, I'm waiting for some donations, which I'm not getting. Well, you don't have bad timing there, Ken. Everybody's born with a sense of rhythm and a sense of timing. All right? What happens, you're sitting, for example, let's say watching TV, and a commercial comes on and you hear some music. You sort of tap your foot. That's a metronome. Look at all these guys. Mercy, Lord be. All right, Dave, here's the material. I'm taking, the booklet is Cymbal Ostinatos, all right? And I'm getting some stuff from Chaffee's book, his page 11, all his combinations, plus some from the Stick Control book. It's about 200 pages, 180 pages. That's what's in it. All right, anyway, Randy, Ed, Ken, let me get back to that. You have bad timing. It's not that you have bad timing. Maybe you should address another issue, concentration. If you concentrate and get into that tick, 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 you'll be surprised. The Table of Time, the Joe Morello book. Well, the metronome should be your friend. That's a metronome to me. When I'm practicing alone with the metronome, that's my bass player. He can't make no mistakes because he's digitally controlled. I make the mistakes, and I make a lot of mistakes, and that's how you improve, by knowing you made the mistakes, and that's how you become better. Maybe tomorrow evening, I'll do a different lesson for a while. Just Chaffee stuff and the Stick Control book stuff. The endurance exercises are driving me kind of crazy. Oh, maybe I'll do a Joe Morello table of time. Do all you gentlemen have the first 5 exercises from Joe Morello's Master Studies and the Table of Time? Do we all have that? And we'll deal with a metronome tomorrow night. That's a good subject. Well, I always practice with a metronome as well, Ken. And, it gears me, it makes me write, first off. All right? I don't want to be mechanical, because sometimes I'll play a little ahead of it, a little behind it, or right on it. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot of different ways you can get a lot different things out of your metronome. You could use it as a quarter note pulse, a half note pulse, or a whole note pulse, just to start. But I think I'm going to get into that tomorrow night. Okay? Anyway, I'm exhausted. I tried to make an hour. I will. Tomorrow's what, Wednesday? I will make an hour tomorrow. All right? And we'll start at 7 o'clock tomorrow. And tell your friends. Yeah, Dave, you've been practicing. It's been a while. The drummer in black. Well, the drummer in black. What's your first name? You just get here? First off, I worked with a variety of musicians, and they're all wacky, which most musicians are anyway. Just a joke, okay? Anyway, a a metronome is for me. When I play a tune, if somebody kicks it off, usually I usually kick it off when I'm playing, but somebody go 1, 2, 3, 4, and by the time all the verses are you 1, 2, 3, 4 to the ear. All right. Now I know when to hold them back and when to keep them in the pocket. They're going out of the pocket and they turn around and look at me like I'm a Looney Tunes. Well, it's not my problem, it's their problem. All right. And I keep getting this a lot in the beginning of my playing career. Yeah, you're supposed to be a timekeeper. You got to lay it down. Well, here's how I respond to that. If you're sharing the same stage as me and you're a musician, I don't have to keep time for you. Keep your own time. As long as the 3, 4, 5 people are in the same time. A musician should keep his own time. Period. "7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, gentlemen. All right, Joe Morello's Master Studies. We'll work out of that, and we'll see what happens. You know, the thing about taking lessons, especially online. Now, I know Dave Franikowski. He was living in Jersey, and he studied with me one-on-one. And then he moved to Florida. All right, good for you, Randy. That's a great book. All right, anyway, Mr. Drummer in Black, tell me who are you? What's your name? Get on my mailing list. Okay, Drummer in Black. I'm going to put my email. You email me, and I'll send you some PDFs. Okay? So, Drummer in Black, email me, and I'll send you some PDFs. And then, gentlemen, don't forget about a dollar donation, $2 donation once in a while. Really be helpful. For now. Okay, well, uh, I can't. Damn, Jan, email me, and we'll talk a little bit. All right? I just posted my email there. I'll send you some PDFs, and we'll see what it's all about. Okay, I'll be back tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, practice. Have a good night. And it's dinner time. Gentlemen, have a good night.